In NFL joint practices, some football teams send warnings to the rest of the league, and other football teams receive wake-up calls from the league. And in today's joint practice with the Washington Commanders, the Ravens defense just gave us its clearest warning yet. What happened in Week 1 preseason against the Eagles and Week 2 preseason against the Vikings was no anomaly. Against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders today, the Ravens were dominant. They controlled the red zone, forced a few turnovers, they disrupted the timing of the passing game, and repeatedly rallied to the football. But it was not a complete Ravens victory. The Commanders' pass rush did create some problems for Lamar Jackson in the 11-on-11 portion of practice. Wide receiver Zay Flowers was missing again, and kicker Tyler Loop missed 2 field goals today, both going to the same side. Needless to say, there is a lot to cover here in this episode of the Reigning Ravens Report right here on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, where we do drop daily Ravens content. If that sounds good to you, please be sure to like this video and also subscribe to the channel as well. I'm your host, Sutton Def, and let's get into it. What's good, Rain Gang? Welcome back to another episode of the Reigning Ravens Report. Today, the Baltimore Ravens welcome the Washington Commanders to Owings Mills, Maryland, for their final joint practice of the summer. And for what it's worth, before practice, you had the official Washington Commanders website saying in an article that this was a steep jump up in competition from who the Washington Commanders have been playing before. And by the end of the first team red zone periods, we understood why. And I do think it's important to separate the 7-on-7 drills from the 11-on-11 drills, because 7-on-7 measures the quarterback, receivers, and coverage. 11-on-11 adds the pass rush, run blocking, and protections. That distinction matters because the Ravens offense did perform a lot better in 7-on-7s as opposed to 11-on-11. More on why that might concern me a little bit later in the video. But the Ravens defense did not need that no pass rush advantage. So let's start with the defense. The Ravens starting defense opened the 7-on-7 portion of practice with 2 excellent plays in coverage. On consecutive plays, quarterback Jaden Daniels was forced to throw the football away because the coverage was just that good downfield. And that doesn't happen because of just one defender. That happens when the coverage works together. The outside corners take away the first read. The underneath defenders close the throwing windows. And the safeties prevent the quarterback from bailing himself out with a deep ball. Jaden Daniels is dangerous when he can quickly identify the answers to the defense because he's able to attack before the defense can adjust. But the Ravens made him hesitate. And that extra second is what the pass rush is going to need come the regular season. And we saw another example of that during full teamwork. It was reported that Jaden Daniels completed a pass to Terry McLaurin against zone coverage, but Tavius Robinson had already beaten the right tackle, Josh Connerly Jr. Reporters say it would have been an easy sack in a real game. And that rep is a perfect example of why practice completions should be taken with a grain of salt. Because while the offense technically completed the pass, the defense still won the play. Then the Ravens defense took over in the red zone. There was one play where the Commanders' rookie center had a bad snap. Jaden Daniels recovered it and then tries to throw it to tight end Chiga Kwanko in the back of the end zone, and Kyle Hamilton's right there for the interception. So yes, the bad snap did create the chaos on that play. But need I remind you, takeaways often come from being able to recognize chaos before the offense can recover from it. Hamilton stayed alert on that play, he found the ball, and he made the play. That is what elite defenders do. Marlon Humphrey continues to build upon his good performance last week in Minnesota, because on the very next play, Marlon Humphrey gets a pass breakup on an in-breaking route. The Ravens defense was also shutting down the quick passing game of the Commanders today. Jaden Daniels threw the ball to De'Ami Brown in the flat. Nate Wiggins snuffed it out and immediately finished that play. On the play after that, Jaden Daniels tries to throw to the left flat, and Roquan Smith this time was right there for another potential tackle for loss. So 2 plays back-to-back that are very similar offensively and 2 similar results from the defense. That tells us that Ravens defenders were reading the action quickly and trusting their assignments. They weren't chasing the football late, and they definitely weren't doing what they were doing all last season under Zach Orr, which was playing more reactive than proactive. I do have to give a shout out to safety Keandre Jackson, who forced a fumble today on Commanders running back Robert Henry Jr. It's reported that that play immediately energized the entire Ravens sideline too. And guys, let's be real, Keandre Jackson is making a serious case to making this team. And not only just making the team, because I thought he was going to do that anyway, but pretty soon he could be getting some meaningful snaps on Sundays. And the defensive success was not limited to just one position group. Tavius Robinson was creating pressure. Trey Hendrickson, Travis Jones, and Trenton Simpson found themselves in the backfield for a group sack. It was truly a complete defensive performance.
Fundamentally, one step at a time, we're trying to set edges. Like up front is all I can talk about like right now. Setting edges and playing with a physical edge. I think we're doing a good job embodying what our identity is going to be. I mean, we haven't really cut it loose yet. So it's a week in, week out identity building, foundational pillars of what we want to be.
If you're loving the way this defense is sounding so far and you also want to support the channel, please be sure to like the video and subscribe. The Ravens defense was so dominant today, you even had the Washington Commanders reporters admitting that in their practice report tweets. Let's shift gears to the offense. It was a little bit more of a complicated day for the offense. And I'm beginning to sense a theme here, right? The defense is just light years ahead of this offense. Number one, Zay Flowers did not practice for the second day in a row. Definitely not the specific wide receiver I had in mind who might not be at practice this week. What we can evaluate is how the Ravens distributed those missing opportunities. And wide receiver Rashad Bateman became the clear focal point. Rashad Bateman received a third of Lamar Jackson's targets during team practice. That's 5 targets out of 15 total, and Rashad Bateman caught 3 out of those 5. One of the incompletions seemed to be a miscommunication between Bateman and Lamar, and the other incompletion was just a super difficult sideline catch, and it ended up going off of Bateman's hands. Reporters described Rashad Bateman as by far the toughest cover for the Washington Commanders DBs today. It really does feel like Rashad Bateman is coming into his own as a wide receiver in this system, and he's going to do a lot of damage this year. Rashad Bateman was absolutely frying the Commanders DBs in the one-on-one portion of practice, as you can see here. And Lamar found Bateman for a touchdown during the 7-on-7 portion of practice. It is important to note that Mark Andrews and Jacoby Lane both caught touchdowns in the 7-on-7 portion of practice as well. That shows the potential of the Ravens' route concepts when Lamar Jackson actually has time to throw. Once the practice moved into full-team red zone 11-on-11 work, the results changed. The Ravens' offensive line right now is just straight up an issue. And before we panic, I do want you guys to realize one thing. If there's any time that you would want your offensive line to be a mess and look like a mess, it's in August. Because the truth of it is, these guys have not gotten the opportunity to play alongside each other. Think about it. They haven't done it in the preseason games. And the first time that they were able to play side by side was last week in the joint practice against the Minnesota Vikings. And as we know, going up against a Brian Flores defense, that's like giving calculus to 5th graders. They're just not ready for it yet. And while we don't have much footage of exactly what happened there, today reporters did say that Roger Rosengarten had himself a tough day. He ended up on the ground on 2 straight reps. But as a unit, they all need to be better. However, the Ravens did produce a couple of solid runs. There was a short check down to Derrick Henry. But the Commanders' pass rush sped up the operation and forced Lamar Jackson to get the ball out of his hands before he actually wanted to, which also did lead to another overthrow that was intended for Jacoby Lane. So the Ravens passing game did have some answers in 7-on-7, but in 11-on-11, it was a little bit of a different story. And that does bother me because that exclusively means the offensive line is not where it needs to be. The 7-on-7 portion of practice does tell us that a passing concept can create open receivers. But none of those passing concepts matter if the quarterback has to abandon the play before the routes develop. And unofficially today, Lamar Jackson finished 18 for 25 in the team period of practice. Wide receiver Jacoby Lane had a mixed day. During individual red zone work, he lost his first 2 fade route matchups. On his 3rd attempt, he did create separation, but it was a bad pass that did not allow him to haul it in. Now, like I said earlier, he did respond later in the practice with that touchdown in 7-on-7. So Lane did not dominate every matchup, and we don't expect him to do so. However, he does continue to find ways to contribute, whether it be in these training camps, whether it be in the preseason games. He's doing well. He's going to be wide receiver 3.
Man, it's easy target. Big guy, like 6'4", 6'5". Catch the ball with the best of them, man. I told you, like, my comparison, like Odell Beckham and DeAndre Hopkins with the hands.
Reporters did also see Elijah Surratt getting locked up during his individual work, but I think Eli will be just fine. I think for both of those rookies, these joint practices reveal exactly what route concepts, releases, and things like that work best for them at the NFL level. Now we must discuss Tyler Loop. Tyler Loop finished the day 5 for 7 in the field goal portion of practice. He connected from 49 and 53 yards out, which are very meaningful makes. However, he did miss wide right from 41 yards out, and then he missed badly to the right from 60 yards out. The 60-yard attempt is difficult enough to where I'm not concerned about him missing that. The 41-yard miss does change the evaluation just a bit. Both failures traveling to the same direction wide right speaks to a mechanical issue. It doesn't mean that the Ravens have a kicking crisis on their hands, because he was perfect in the last preseason game, and yesterday in practice he went 6 for 7. But the Ravens special team room and coach Anthony Levine Sr., they really need to nail down exactly why a lot of these kicks are going wide and rapidly try to fix that, because the season is only 2.5 weeks away. Like, what are we doing, dude? So my final takeaways from day one of joint practice with the Commanders: the biggest individual winner was Rashad Bateman, who I expect is probably playing with a lot of emotion right now. The biggest remaining concern is the offensive line and how they look against pressure. Of course, also a huge shout out to the Ravens defense. Jesse Minter, you have truly changed my life. But let me know your biggest takeaways from joint practice. Was it Kyle Hamilton in the defense? Is it Bateman stepping forward without Zay, who apparently is only dealing with something minor? Him and Zion Young dealing with some minor things right now.
Nothing major. Both of those guys dealing with some minor things and looking out for the week one health versus today health.
Or was it Tyler Loop missing twice to the right? Drop your answer down below in the comments. And if you did enjoy this content, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more of this Ravens content, and consider joining our channel membership, which gives you access to giveaways, tiered chat badges, chat emojis, our member call-in shows, exclusive content, and much more. Again, my name is Sutton Def. You've been listening to the Reigning Ravens Report right here on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video. And may purple rain.